lobby of the usual place in Solvang, and we're going to stack Lisa's Star Trail images from last night off Highway 166 east of Santa Maria on Friday night, May 16th. All right, so she's got her images here. She started halfway through nautical twilight, so you can see how the light quickly changes from a relatively bright sky with obscured stars from the sunset all the way down to a totally dark sky where you can barely even see any of the foreground. And so we're going to walk through a few of the parameters here. What I generally do in this situation, there's a lot of images here, but what I typically do is I first start with one of the images when it's totally dark, and I use that one as my reference to develop. So I'm just going to do a real quick example edit of some of the things that we can do. I'm just increasing the exposure so I can see what's there. I'm going to use the eyedropper to color balance the sky. It's a little bit pink. Try over here. It's a little bit better. Maybe try over here. The standard way is for me is instead of using the eyedropper is I will temporarily increase the vibrance and saturation like this. And then I'll first adjust the temperature slider from blue to yellow to blue to yellow. And I'll find somewhere about halfway in between. I'm looking for these patchy spots, like in here. And then I go from green to pink to green to pink, and I find that halfway point. So this is beautiful. See these little patches? That's what I'm looking for. I take the vibrance and the saturation back down to 0, and now I have a neutral gray sky. If I bring the exposure back down, we have this. One nice thing about Lisa's settings, 6400, 3.5 for 10 seconds, is that we should get some pretty nice star colors. I'm not going to do too much with it from there. We could denoise it. I'm not going to do that. I did want to show you that color balancing technique. We might just bump up the exposure a smidge, just so we can see what's going on with that. I'm going to go back to the, so now I developed this image, and I want to synchronize the settings from that to the rest of the images. So I'm going to come over here to this right-hand side where it says Sync Settings. I'm going to select that. We don't have any masks, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. I could say check none or check all. I could say check none, only do the white balance or the color. I just check all just for no particular reason. Synchronize, and then this is going to paste the settings, as you can see up here, to all the images. And then it's going to go through. You see these three little dots? These 3 little dots mean that that image has not yet been updated, but now it has. You can see them popping in through here. So this is going to take a few minutes. We're going to wait for that to happen, and then we'll come back in and check in with you in a few minutes. Pause, 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 pause. So while that's happening, you can see the things updating. I'm going to open up StarStax, which is the program that I'm going to use to do the stacking. Here it is. It's a free program from a university professor, so it's not particularly modernized or got a great user interface. But when we're ready, we're going to use this tab right here to find the images we want to stack. So in this case, this is going to be these images here. So when they're all, we haven't actually exported them. Whoop, ignore that. But we're going to find the images to stack here. And then once that has happened, we're going to open them, we're going to select them, and then we just simply hit this button right there, and that stacks them for us. And I hit save. So it's just a 1, 2, 3. Super easy. If you haven't downloaded StarStax before onto a Mac in particular, and you try to run it from the website, how do we do that? So we go to, the search term for that is StarStax. And another good one is Marcus Ensweiler. He's the person who wrote it. And you get this thing, you click on it, that takes you to his homepage. You can do download and installation and basically follow it from there. If you do that and you open it on a Mac, it might say I can't do that because of privacy concerns. Just go into the Mac settings under privacy and security. There's a thing that you can it says you are trying to open an application downloaded from the internet. You sure you want to do that? And you just follow that through, and then it should be just fine. All right, so we are progressing with the updated images. Idiosyncrasy of Lightroom in this updating process is that you have to, I find on my system, you have to be on the page, or the images have to be visible on the screen for the updating to be applied. Don't know why that is, but that's how it is. So if you go off and have a cup of coffee and then come back. You might just make sure that everything is in fact updated before you start exporting the images for processing into your Star Trails image. So this is clipping right along pretty quickly, as you can see. And we'll just go all the way down here to the very bottom and let all the updates take place. But this is looking good. I mean, the focus is good. The composition is superb. We got a nice, we started partway through twilight, so we've got some nice options. So while we're waiting for all that to happen, we're going to do a few different versions of the same Star Trails image, starting with different initial images at different stages of twilight. You might start one at the very beginning. You might start one halfway through. You might start with an image that's totally dark. That's really up to you. Okay, but now these all have been updated. Let's just scroll through these. I'm going to click on this and then use the right arrow on the keyboard to see what we got. So this is progressing through the images. Look at that. You can see the airplanes, but here's Polaris. So all the circles are going to be around that star. See the Little Dipper over here. Looking great. You have some nice trees in sharp focus, a great silhouette. I can hear the screech owls, or the barn owls. I can hear the barn owl screeching. Oh, that was an interesting thing. Oh, no. Maybe that was, maybe that's it. Oh, that was that thing that you guys were talking about. Anyway, I digress. All right, so we've got those. We're now going to select all, and then we're going to go to File, Export, because we're going to create a version of, cancel that. We're going to go to, this is an idiosyncrasy of me. That's not going to happen to you. So I hit File, Export, and we're going to choose the first thing we want to do is where do we want them to go? And where we want them to go is not into my kids folder, but onto the hard drive for the workshop. And we are going to make a new folder in here called Lisa JPEGs, not TIFFs. Let's call them Star Trail TIFFs. So we're going to create TIFF files. And create. So there. So that's the destination for the new files we're going to create. So we're going to select a TIFF format. And we're not going to do much else. We're RGB, 16 bits. We're going to keep that. We're not going to resize it, not going to rename it, anything like that. And we've selected them all, so we're going to hit Export. And it's saying exporting 749 files. So that's going to take a minute or two. So we're going to, again, check back in with that in a few. 2 hours later. It's actually going pretty fast. It's going to be a fun project.
Yes. I'm excited. It'll all be laid out for me there.
And like I say, I'll put this on the YouTube for the future reference.
Nice.
So actually, while we're waiting for those to export, let's just run through how to use StarStax very briefly. So as I mentioned, you will use this tab right here. Click on it, and so now we can go to Lisa Star Trail Tips. We could start processing a few of these. A few of these have been done, so we can just do kind of a trial run. So let's just choose these ones right here. So I'm going to choose, when these are all done, obviously I'll choose all of them. So I'm going to select those. I'm going to hit Open. Populates right over here. And then to create the Star Trails, I simply click right here. So I go click here, click, and it just goes through one at a time and creates the Star Trails. So you can see them forming right before your eyes, right over here. And obviously it's going to be a much bigger effect when we're all done. Now, a couple options here, and are you familiar with the comet mode? Yeah. So one option is so you have these three buttons over here. I think it looks like a bicycle sprocket, a wrench, and something else. The bicycle sprocket, I'm just clicking on it, click, 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 click. If it's not visible, just click on it and you'll get this pop out. Blending mode is lighten. If you click on comet mode, you have a choice of short trails, long trails. I always go long trails, you see why. I don't do any of this at the outset, so let's just repeat that step and see what difference it makes. It's not really, you don't really notice anything here. What it does is it produces what look like streaking shooting stars.
Yeah.
So that's a real nice effect. In addition to that, as you go along in your journey, you'll probably want to, if you do a comet mode star trails image, you probably want to create yet another version of your images where you save them after each step, because then you can animate those and watch them go into a time lapse, which is very, very cool. Don't need to do that, don't need to do this, but those are a couple options. I don't do anything with this tab. I don't even know what's in there. I don't know what that does. No idea at all. Same here, what's in there, who knows? Gap filling, yeah, it's good. I looked at that did that. There we are, back to this. So I'm gonna leave that with the gear thing selected. We're gonna clear the images down here because we wanna use the whole process. And now let's see how we're doing. Oh, we're moving right along. So we'll check back in just a couple more minutes. Oh, and while we're at it, let's just, for the sake of completion, here's Photoshop. Let's open that up. And if for some reason Star Trek's it is a Mac system, you can always in Photoshop go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack right here. And you can then do that with your images. Let's just do that very quickly. So let's browse. Let's go to Lisa's Star Trail TIFFs. Let's go to these ones, maybe that are a little bit darker. So I might choose, let's say, these ones right here. Again, I would choose all of them when I'm doing this for real. Open, okay. And so what Photoshop's gonna do right now is, I wonder if that was from the rocket launch. I think it very well, that doesn't look like a normal contrail. So, interesting. Yeah, I know, right? So here we have, so it's created a new document called Untitled. So this is not a version of an image. This is an untitled image stack. And it has these layers in it over here. So all these layers here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the top layer. I'm gonna scroll down and I'm gonna go to the second from the bottom layer.
Okay.
And I'm gonna simply, in the blend mode, I'm simply gonna choose light mode. And you see it does the same Star Trails effect. So this is how you make Star Trails in Photoshop, if you don't want to use the star stacks. So then you would say, I'm gonna flatten this image when you're done, and then you would then process it and go from there. But we're not gonna save that now. We're just gonna go back to the,
Where's the flatten thing?
what?
The flatten thing? How do you do that?
Let's go back to that. So it's under layer, and when it's available, you can merge a subset of layers, or you can just flatten all of it into a single. But that's a irreversible step. So that's you're baking the cookie at that point.
And why
So-
don't you pick the last image? Is it all the last?
I think it works with that. It's just a habit more than anything else, to be
Okay.
perfectly honest. But I think it also needs to have a base from which to, okay, so we've got them all done, great. All right, so now what we're gonna do is be a little bit more intentional about all this. We obviously don't want to start with this first one. So Lisa, let me ask you, which one do you want to start with as a base image?
Can I see the?
So there's pretty much completely dark. So you can scroll back using this key right here. Just hold it down. There you go. Perfect. You're unwinding
I
time.
like.
So that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So that one is image 143 with a name of 2592. Okay? So we're going to start with 2592 in Star Stacks. So now we're going to go to this option here. We open the folder. I've already forgotten what number it was. 2592. Okay.
2592.
So we're going to find 2592. We're going to confirm our choice, 2592. There it is. That looks good. So we're going to start there, and then we're going to go all the way to the end. And I'll often pick the one, not the very last one, just because something screwy often happens there. Like Mike walks up in the headlight or something like that. I'll probably have a couple of the other ones. And then I've selected them, and now we just do this, and we watch the magic happen. again, gonna take a minute, you can see. And you might decide you don't wanna do all of them, you wanna do, or gonna stop it here, or, but look at that, great focus, look at the great star colors, the blues
Would you
and the
take
yellows.
the artifacts out before you stack them, or do you go in after with AI and do that?
Good question. I mean, probably if I were gonna do this for real, like if I was gonna mount it, I would do it beforehand. If you're gonna post it on Instagram, then I would do it afterwards.
I like that circle right
So-
there. In the
Oh, yeah.
circle.
You know, so one of the, I remember there's a quote attributed to Ansel Adams when he was out taking a photograph of the sunrise one morning, and someone reportedly said, "How do you do that? How do you do such great work?" Basically, and one of his answers was, "Well, you keep doing the same thing over and over for 20 years." The reason for saying that is now that you've done this, I mean, this star trail it's always going to be the same. So you might decide to go back there someday and put someone in there with a lantern
Yeah.
or something, or a puppy with a lantern.
Her little face right
Yeah. But that's the sort of thing that after you do something, you're like, oh, if I go back and do it over and over and over again, each time it gets a little bit better.
Wow.
I do these so few and far between, so I get
Right.
it, but still, I can
Yeah.
get out there and try,
Absolutely. And I'll show you some tricks for bringing out the colors in the sky as well, or the color of the stars. But no, this is a great, great,
Cool.
great image.
I like the circle here and then the circle there.
Yeah, it balances out very nicely. Not quite as many airplanes as by where we were the first night, curiously.
Definitely.
Yeah, for something like this, I would definitely, and also you can see there's a couple little, there's a gap. So what that means is we may have started it and then stopped it and then restarted it. So we may not start that, or if something screwy happened, or, did you take out any images? No, okay. Oh, we took it right off the card, didn't we? So we're good there. So going back to what we were saying, you can see here, you know, how many degrees is that? Well, that's probably at least 20 degrees of an arc. And what's interesting is these start to look like complete circles, but of course it's only possible above the Arctic Circle in the winter or below the, And so, because they overlap, you get that effect. But yeah, this is really nice. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of airplanes in there, but again, if you compare, let's say it takes 2 hours to go, 3 hours to go through your images and take those out, that's still a small amount of time compared to this whole investment of, the trip and going out there and
Yeah,
learning how to use your camera and stuff like that. And in my opinion, it's well worth it.
yeah, definitely.
Great composition.
Yeah, it really is. Going right through there.
Ross, come with this.
This is Lisa's.
That's from last night?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think I had it on daylight, right, like
I think so, yeah. That sounds familiar.
that.
And this is obviously
Colors
bef-
coming out there, it's really pretty.
Yeah, it is. This is before the fog. Oh, there comes Mike. Okay, so, see, that was at the very end. And again, don't worry about this because we can replace the foreground. That was me walking up. You might decide to like it. Okay, so for the present purposes, we're now going to save this image. So remember, we opened the image. We opened this folder to find out where the images are. We stacked them. We just clicked on that, and that did the processing. Now we're going to save it. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to save that. I think we're going to just save that. We're going to save that. We're just going to save that in this folder right here. So I'm going to save it right here, and that's a JPEG, unfortunately, but that is what it is. We'll save that, and now we're done. So now we're going to quit StarStax, and before we wrap up this video, let me just show you how I would use Photoshop to edit that image. So here it is. It's 23 megabytes, so it's got a decent amount of stuff in there. We've already color balanced it. And in Photoshop, this is the Mike Shaw workflow. I mean, there's no particular rational thought behind it. It's just more of a what works.
Preference,
The first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this foreground. Or I want to replace it with something better. So I'm going to go back to my original images, and what was it, 2592? This one?
I believe.
All right, so this is going to be totally the wrong size. It's okay. So I'm going to open that in Photoshop. So I have this image and this image opened. So I'm going to go to this image. I want to get this foreground and paste it over the other foreground. So how do I do that? I go to Select Sky, and incredible job.
Inverse?
I then click on this lock button to make this an active layer. I then delete the sky. I then deselect that selection, and I select all, copy, Control C, go over here and hit paste.
Oh, wow.
Done. So what I did there is if I turn the visibility of these layers off, you can see that. So I'm just looking, so another way to put that, if I grab this layer, I can move it around, see? But I just pasted it. And I could, by the way, I could just go to that layer and I could do a camera raw filter and just edit this layer independently.
Love it.
So that then becomes that. So I'm going to undo that. So you can edit the foreground separately from the sky. But now, okay, so that's cool. I want to get rid of that. I just want to, and I've got this background just as a backup. That's like the way starting. So I'm going to edit this image right here. So I'm going to go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. So here we are. So I don't care anything about the foreground here at all. I'm purely looking at the sky. You got a lot of different options here. I mean, there's so much to work with, but one place to start might be to say decrease. I want to make the sky more contrasty and colorful. That's my goal. So I'm going to bring this down and then crank up the vibrance. I mean, this is, I'm just showing you an effect that you can go for, right? I mean, I don't know if this is to your taste or not.
Actually,
but
it is. I like that.
yeah. If you might think you want to boost the highlights, but that washes it out. But if you can bring that down, you have the contrast. And then if you really want to, take the red pill, you can go to these effects and, go a little apeshit with them. So,
Nice.
so that's like it's very extreme. But I think so. That was a little bit even too much even for me. And then of course you can do the selective color, where you go to image adjustments, selective color. Reds, cyan is the complementary color, so we bring that down. Yellow, there's a yellow slider, so we bring that up. Green, magenta is the complementary color, so we bring that down. Green just popped right there. Cyan. Yeah, this is too much for me, but nonetheless, let's just go with it. Yellow is complementary, so that comes down. Look what happened to the blues. Magenta, there's a magenta, we bring that up. And then the neutrals, it's already pretty contrasty, but you could bring up black a little bit, bring it down a little bit. You can see what it does to the sky there, just to taste. Same thing with the blacks. You can kind of experiment with how you want that to look. And then that's it. Then you put the foreground back in. Personally, I don't want to do that. Don't worry about this. Oops. Yeah. I might consider doing something like that, just because there's a lot of this is where the action is, and you have these two. So I might, do that as a final crop. And you can do that because you've got such a great job with all this. It just depends on where you want to take it.
Right.
When you're done, of course, you can then save the whole thing as a Photoshop file. You want to keep all that work you just did. So save that. So the first thing I do is I always save the Photoshop file as is. And then I will save a copy as a JPEG file. So this is going to be a large-ish JPEG file. And then the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resize the image to, look at that, 66 inches. You could make a giant thing out of this at that resolution, so you probably would maybe print it a little smaller. But I would make this for like Instagram 1080. And then I would save another copy as a JPEG. And I would put StarStack's dash Instagram dash 1080 pics, just to remind myself. So I'm saving a copy as a JPEG. Okay. And then I'm going to hit, this is the Photoshop file now. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to say, do I want to save? Hell no, because I don't want to save that miniature version of it. And then I'm done. And I'm just going to close this file, and I don't want to save that because that's the original TIFF file. I don't want to do that, and that completes it. So at the end of all of that, let's look at what we've got. Excuse me. We've got your initial raw files. So those are still there. From those, we created a set of TIFFs that we edited in Lightroom. From those, we created a StarStack's image, which is this one. From that, we created a Photoshop edited version of that image. From that Photoshop, we created two JPEGs, a full-size JPEG, which is 23 megabytes, that you would send into a printer, and then a mini version, which is 1.3, that you would post on Instagram. You could post a big one on Instagram too. I don't know why. I just habitually make a miniature version of it. The end. All right, thank you.